You glide through the revolving doors of the Ellison House ballroom, and the air greets you with the faint scent of bergamot and polished mahogany. Chandeliers drip crystal overhead, their reflections dancing across rows of eager faces. You feel the soft hush of money being whispered rather than spoken, and you know you have stepped into an evening designed to dazzle. Can you almost hear the cashmere sleeves brushing against antique chairs, the muted click of diamond bracelets as bidders lift their paddles? This is more than an auction. It is theatre. A violinist teases out a final arpeggio and steps aside. All eyes swing to the rostrum where Victor Sterling, the silver-haired auctioneer, adjusts his bow tie. His gavel gleams under the lights, a miniature scepter promising both victory and defeat. You settle into your seat, lot catalogue balanced on your knee, and catch the scent of jasmine from the woman on your right. Will a single strike of wood change your fortunes tonight? Sterling begins with a warm flourish, his voice wrapping the room in velvet. Lot 21, he announces, is a Modigliani sketch owned by a reclusive countess. You notice how effortlessly the bids leap from 200 to 500,000. The numbers feel abstract here, as abstract as the shapes on the canvas. Sterling calls fair warning, brings the gavel up, and he never finishes the strike. The gavel slips from his fingers, clatters on the lectern, and Sterling's eyes widen in disbelief. You watch, frozen, as he crumples forward like a marionette whose strings have been cut. A gasp ripples through the room. Someone calls his name, yet the auctioneer is already motionless, cheek pressed to the mahogany. A hush follows, tinged with the metallic scent of panic. You notice the violinist backing away, the socialite clutching her pearls, the security guard's hand inching toward his radio. The moment feels suspended, as if the chandeliers have held their breath. Then a man strides forward from the third row. He wears a midnight blue dinner jacket and carries, improbably, a fountain pen instead of a phone. You recognize Theodore Lane, the dilettante detective whispered about in weekend supplements. Rumor says he prefers puzzles to parties, poison to politics, and tonight, poison has found him. Lane kneels beside Sterling, fingers pressing lightly at the neck, his brows knit. He uncaps his pen, sniffs it, then the fallen gavel. You lean closer, curiosity uncoiling. Around you, seats creak as patrons shift, desperate for reassurance or gossip. Lane rises and faces the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that Mr. Sterling is dead," he says, the words soft, yet slicing across the silence. "I believe cyanide is responsible." A murmur swells, thick as the perfume now cloying in the air. Cyanide. How could anyone smuggle something so lethal into such an immaculate setting? Lane politely requests that no one leave. Security obliges by closing the gilded doors. In an instant, the auction's drama tilts from finance to fatality. You sense the collective pulse accelerating as Lane steps onto the platform, claiming Sterling's abandoned spotlight. He begins, oddly, with art history rather than autopsy. "Lot 21, he says, lifting the Modigliani sketch, is a forgery. A clever one, yes, but fraudulent. Our murderer counted on that detail remaining hidden. Why?" You flip open your catalogue. The charcoal lines do look too rigid, the signature a shade too bold. Lane explains that a genuine Modigliani neck curves with languid sorrow, while this one angles like a question mark. You start to see it. Lane's voice guides you, inviting your eyes to detect what your heart had missed. Are you becoming a connoisseur or an accomplice? He pivots toward a slender man with salt and pepper hair, the estate attorney for the late collector who consigned the sketch. the attorney's lips thin. Lane asks him, "Did you verify provenance or trust the family law?" The man swallows, admits he relied on aged letters. Lane nods sympathetically, yet presses on, revealing how forged letters often carry modern ink detectable by ultraviolet light. But why kill Sterling? Lane theorizes aloud that the auctioneer discovered the deceit only tonight. Cyanide acts quickly, reminds you, but planning takes patience. Who had both motive and access? Your eyes roam the room, cataloguing suspects like sculptures. The heiress in ruby silk, the rival dealer known for ruthless acquisitions, the minor prince whose fortune dissolves faster than vintage champagne. Lane asks each bidder to describe their last interaction with Sterling. You notice how his questions glide from polite to probing. The heiress admits she presented Sterling with a peppermint lozenge, claiming his throat sounded scratchy. The dealer says he shook Sterling's hand, congratulating him on record profits. The prince reveals he had shared a celebratory glass of brandy poured by the auction sommelier. Your mind races. Peppermint could disguise bitter almonds, the telltale scent of cyanide. A handshake could transfer contact poison. Brandy could mask another lethal addition entirely. Lane smiles slightly, sensing the audience turning gears alongside him. Aren't mysteries most delicious when you feel part of the chase? He requests the silver tray of lozenges. You watch as he snaps one in half, inhales, then drops it into a crystal glass of water. Within seconds, the water clouds and a faint almond aroma blooms. The room recoils. The heiress's face blanches, yet she protests. She claims Sterling asked for the lozenge himself. Lane shakes his head. Cyanide bonds quickly with iron in the blood. Mr. Sterling fell within 15 seconds of contact. The timeline matches. Still, motive remains. Why would the heiress risk everything tonight? Lane opens the catalogue to Lot 32, a Rodin bronze from her deceased father's collection. Suppose Sterling hinted it too, was fake. Losing her late father's legacy publicly could tarnish her family name and her influence over certain charitable foundations. But Lane isn't convinced she acted alone. He turns to the sommelier who poured the prince's brandy. A bottle of Armagnac sits uncorked on a sideboard. Lane asks the prince to taste it. The prince hesitates. You feel the tension, as though every heartbeat in the room syncs with the chandelier's glimmer. The prince finally sips, grimaces, yet remains upright. No poison there. Then Lane announces a final test. He pulls a pair of nitrile gloves from his pocket, slips them on, and collects Sterling's fallen gavel. With a scalpel so slender it resembles a violin string, he pares a sliver from the handle and slides it under a portable spectrometer, conveniently tucked in his case. Seconds later, the screen flashes. Iron cyanide complex detected. Lane lifts the gavel high. So, he says, voice steady, our killer did not rely on candy or cocktails. The poison was embedded in the gavel's varnish. Each time Sterling gripped it, a minuscule dose transferred through sweat into his skin. You shiver at the elegance of it. Who had access to the gavel long enough to conceal poison beneath a fresh coat? Lane turns to the salt and pepper attorney once more. Earlier, you noticed his fountain pen. Now Lane does too. He asks for it. Reluctantly, the attorney hands it over. Lane scrapes the pen's cap. The same varnish flakes off. The pen and the gavel were coated together, Lane explains. He reminds the room that the attorney arrived early under the guise of confirming paperwork, yet no one monitored him as he reviewed lots on stage. The forged Modigliani, the altered gavel, even forged letters would protect the family estate from scandal. and divert suspicion toward other heirs. Sterling had noticed inconsistencies in provenance and confronted the attorney shortly before the auction began. Eliminating Sterling secured the sale of the fake sketch at full price, recouping debts and preserving reputation. The attorney straightens, composure cracking like old lacquer. He opens his mouth, perhaps to argue, but words desert him. Security advances, cuffs glinting. The crowd releases the collective breath you didn't realize you were holding. Lane steps forward, lowering the poisoned gavel with solemn care. In a softer tone, he addresses you and the remaining bidders. Art should outlive vanity, he says. Let this night remind you that authenticity demands vigilance, whether on canvas or in character. His gaze sweeps the ballroom. Do you hear the unspoken invitation to see, truly see, before you bid on anything again? The chandeliers resume their sparkle. The violinist, hand trembling, lifts his bow to offer a hesitant trill. You gather your catalogue, its pages now marked not by acquisition, but by caution. As security escorts the attorney away, Lane descends the platform, passing close enough for you to catch a whiff of cedar and ink. He pauses, offers you a nod, and whispers, "A good eye is the best insurance." Then he slips through a side door, his silhouette swallowed by shadow, already chasing the next riddle history and greed might conspire to write. You exhale. The evening promised fortune, yet delivered something richer. The price of vanity paid in truth and cyanide. Will you return to the next auction? You suspect you will. Only now you'll be armed not merely with a paddle, but with sharper sight. Remember this night. When the lights flare, the catalogue rustles, and the gavel rises, you'll ask yourself a new question. Is the shine genuine, or merely a veneer masking danger? Hold that question close. It might just save your life, or at least your investment. And so you leave the Ellison House ballroom, footsteps echoing on marble, the city's cool air greeting you like a sobering aftertaste. The stars above are originals, untouched by human hands. Their authenticity comforts you. Perhaps that is the ultimate takeaway you pocket tonight. The most priceless things cannot be bought, forged, or auctioned. They simply are. And you, now, simply know